Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
Ira, uh,
Yes.
okay. So now uh, Chip had a question for you about perception and thought. Chip, you're there, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
The question was basically whether perception is a thought or not.
Okay.
And
Can you just let me know? So it's either yes or no. Either it is or it isn't. But in either case, does that have some significance? Suppose we say perception is not a thought. They're two different things. Then does does that lead to some understanding? I mean, so a perception is when I see something, and maybe I can have a perception without a thought, or the other view is that our perceptions are, in fact, thoughts that we can't really perceive without a thought. And so, but in either case, they're obviously two ment, mental phenomena, perception and thought. They change. I have different perceptions. I have different thoughts. So whether we say that they're the same or that they're different, does that mean anything? Since they're all lumped into one thing, mental phenomena, the contents of consciousness, perceptions, thoughts, emotions, memories, sensations. If you, so was there some point that you wanted to make, Chip, about why perceptions are not thoughts? Is there something
no,
important to be realized by that?
actually, my feeling about it, or my thought about it, is that all things within the realm of creation are thought, and perceptions are just basically uh, and a they're basically a group of thought. You could group them as basically thought that pertains to the senses. Um, the reason I was asking is because we talk about thought a lot, and we talk about no thought. And I just thought it would be good to have a clear definition when we're having conversations about what thought actually is.
Okay.
And because basically I felt like this idea, we talk a lot about, watching a sunset and not having thoughts. And I feel like, that's, again, those are thoughts. Everything that we experience, I believe, within the realm of creation is a thought. And then
Okay.
there's stillness, which is outside the realm of creation.
Okay.
And I think that's the place that we're looking to connect with, in terms of actually having a recognition of who we truly are.
In these talks, that's the important thing, what you said, the stillness, because whether it's a perception or a thought, or thoughts are perceptions, they're they're all objects. They appear, they disappear, they're changing. Perceptions come and go. I see a beautiful sunset, or I think about a beautiful sunset. In either case, they're the contents of consciousness, and they're constantly changing. I think that the important point, especially in discussions about non duality, is to recognize that there's something that's not changing, that's always there, that is unaffected by whatever is appearing, beautiful perceptions or ugly perceptions, good thoughts, bad thoughts, that the consciousness in which all of that appears, when a happy thought, consciousness is not happy, sad thought, consciousness is not sad. The unchanging consciousness that usually we don't recognize because we identify with the thoughts, that the real point, because if you want to argue an epistemological nuance about when I use my senses and they fall upon an object and I have a perception, at that moment, I don't have to be thinking. I can perceive something without a thought. Or another epistemological theory would be that I see the tree only because I'm able to form a thought of it. So my perceptions and my thoughts become identical. I I couldn't have the idea that I saw a tree unless I had some thought about a tree. But all of that doesn't take us anywhere, because I think the point is that it's all mental phenomena. It's what appears and what is changing, coming and going, and what is always there, unchanging. This discrimination, recognizing there's something in me, everybody can say that is aware of the perceptions, the thoughts, the emotions, the memories. Not only that, there's something in me that's aware of my whole waking state, that's aware of my dream, and is also aware that sometimes the waking and dream is not appearing. To recognize that from that point of view, that's the whole essence of at least one understanding of non-duality, that the only unchanging reality is that inner self, myself, which is impersonal. It's not an ego. It's because the ego is also a thought. It's just an object. I am so and so. Even the idea I perceive is a thought. But the consciousness in which that appears in the waking state, I appear like I perceive, I think, I know. But the consciousness is not perceiving, it's just pure consciousness lighting up, so to speak, whatever appears. I think even a more, if I can go on, did you want to say something, somebody?
No, no, go on, Ira, please.
So from that perspective that everybody can take that's listening to this now, everybody can take that subjective experience that I'm consciousness and I only either am aware of something or I'm not aware of anything. But in either case, I'm always aware. I'm aware when I'm not aware of anything, when nothing is appearing. We all have states like that. And we can have states when something's appearing. There's no third possibility. So the next step in this is to see that that which is appearing and disappearing can't have any independent existence of its own. If it wasn't appearing in the consciousness, we would have no idea of its existence. It has to exist because it appears to me. That me is not the ego, but me. It's whatever is appearing as an object to me, the subject, the true subject, not the ego, who we think is, oh, I am the subject and the world is the object. Here, the consciousness is aware of the empirical subject and the world that it perceives. That's the impersonal witnessing consciousness that, in fact, is the only reality, because that which appears and disappears can't be ultimately real. It's like a dream. A dream appears and disappears in consciousness. It never had any reality apart from the consciousness. Well, you have to see the fact that our waking state appears and disappears in the same exact way that the dream appears. If you take the viewpoint of that witnessing consciousness, then both the states are exactly the same. If you take the position that I'm the knower in the waking state, and the waking is real because I can see it, touch it, feel it, I know it's real, and I know the dream is not like waking. The dream is just an imagination in my mind. My mind creates the dream. That's correct from the waking point of view of the knower in the waking. What you have to do, or what you can do, is see the fact of what's the actual experience. The experience is that just like the waking, when you woke up, it canceled the dream. When the dream comes, it completely cancels the waking. They're equal in that respect that the states cancel each other. And in deep sleep, there's no waking and there's no dream. So the states are equal. Both of them are equally apparent. In the waking state, it's all real because we perceive it through perceptions, and we have thought, and we can reason about it. It's real. Just like when you're in a dream, your dream eyes perceive the dream tree, and you say it must be there for many years because it's 50 feet tall. You can reason in the dream. It's all real in the dream, while the dream is, but from the point of view of the witness, that consciousness in which everything appears, the waking and the dream, they're equally unreal. The only reality is yourself. You're the one true thing that never changes, that never gets negated, that can't be thought away. You can't think the consciousness away, because if you negate everything, you'll be negating it in consciousness. And when all thought is gone, the only way you know it's gone is because you're still there. You say then a few minutes, few seconds later, oh, I had no thought. How do you know? Because you know when you're thinking and you know when there's no thought. So I'll just, and recognizing this fact, it's not a religion. It's not because some Bible or some scripture or some holy man or some wise man proclaims this, because it's not it's a universal thing that everybody can see for themselves. It's not a religious dogma. It's not to believed in, and it's not anything mystical.
Mm.
What I'm talking about here is not like some special yogi's experience or some mystic that I'm talking about common, because what I mentioned was two things. We all know the contents of our consciousness, but there's a problem with that. I'm aware of my thoughts, but I'm not aware of Chip's thoughts. I'm not aware of Evelyn's thoughts. So everybody must have their own individual consciousness inside of them. I'm an unchanging witness, but there must be many witnesses, that each one has an individual witness. But when you see the fact that this consciousness in me and in Evelyn and Chip and everyone here, when you see that you're the witness of time, you're the witness of space, you're not in time or space. You can't be divided. Division is in time. You're the witness of waking time When the dream appears, you're the witness of dream time. You're the witness of the absence of time. In deep sleep, for you, there's no time. How long did you sleep? It's not an event in the waking time series. You're timeless awareness, spaceless awareness. So they can't be many. That's why it's said that it's the same self in all beings, because it's the truth of all beings. Just like in the dream, it looks like there's many individuals and they each have their own consciousness, but there's only one witness for the dream. That's the one reality without a second. That's the famous saying, is that you are that. You're not the ego that is getting born old, sick, worried, in trouble, fearing death. That is not your nature. Your nature is ever peaceful, ever free from all desires, ever the same, never bored, because there's no time in you. You don't have time to be bored. That type of recognition is the only way you could see if it's true or not is to introspect, to look inside yourself and to recognize what is changing and what is unchanging, what is appearing and disappearing, and what is always there. Is there something that I can't negate? I can't think away. Is there something like that? It's not to be believed. If someone says, oh, yeah, there's something like that in you, that'll be of no value. So it's a kind of a discovery or a recognition. You recognize something that's always there. You didn't have to become that. No effort to attain that. That's who you are, whether you know it or not. But the problem is, if you don't know that you're that, then you'll think, I am this. I am so and so. I was born. I am getting old. I'm going to get sick. I am sick. I'm going to die. That idea is based on a misconception about your true nature. Recognizing that I am immortal consciousness, never born, never dying, puts an end to the misconception that I am an individual in the world, on a planet, in a solar system, in a galaxy amongst billions of galaxies. I am an insignificant nothing that has come here for a few moments, which is absolutely correct from the waking standpoint. But if you can take the standpoint of your own experience, you can see that that's only based on one partial part of my experience. And if I look at the totality of my experience, which is either I'm aware of something or I'm not aware of anything. When I'm aware of waking, I'm aware of something. When I'm daydreaming, I'm aware of something. If I'm hallucinating, I'm aware of something. If I'm visualizing something, I'm aware of something. Either I'm aware of something or I'm not aware of anything. Like they say there's a state that people have called samadhi, where all thoughts stop. Well, we don't know about that because we're not yogis, but we all have deep sleep. That's a universal experience. So you don't have to be a yogi. You can just reflect on your experience of deep sleep. No, and nobody in deep sleep, you're not aware of the world. You're not aware of that the world is absent. You're not aware of anything. You're still awareness, empty of all content. contentless awareness. You're that right now, in fact, how you were in deep sleep. That's your eternal nature. Even when the waking appears, you don't change. When it disappears, you don't change. When the dream appears, you're just the light of the dream. The dream has no reality apart from you. Neither does the waking. You're the only reality. This type of inner reflection can put an end to the idea I am this and this is mine. My house, my car, my money, my wife, my children, that me and mine is the real core of the misconception. And if you can recognize that my true nature is that, not as a belief, not as after I die, I'll become that, to see the fact of the matter right now is what's required. That has to remove the misconception that we all normally have, naturally have, that I am this body, I am these senses, I'm this mind, I'm these ideas, mind, body, senses, totally and thoroughly identified with. But if you examine your experience and to see the truth of it, what is the truth of it? What is my actual experience? I think you can see that they're all contents of consciousness. They appear and disappear in consciousness. They can't exist without consciousness, but consciousness exists without the appearance. Whether anything appears or disappears, consciousness is unaffected, unattached, ever pure, ever the same, ever shining. One, the only reality. Because in this type of understanding, what is real is that which never changes.
Mhm.
And that which is changing can't be real. That in the waking state, what's real is what I can see, touch, smell, feel. That's the test of reality. A thing is real if other people see it and touch it, and if it has causal efficacy, it can do things, it's real. That's the test. But the test in this examination is, does it change or is it unchanging? What is changing and what is unchanging? And if you examine to see what is the fact of the matter, phenomenologically, I'll say, that means in your own experience, the body is an object to you. Just like the outside world, you're aware of it. This body, either you're aware of it or sometimes you're not aware of it. Your senses, your thoughts, your emotions, they have to be objectified. They appear and they disappear. That's why people who practice a thing called vipassana or meditation, when they sit down and close their eyes and they're instructed, just see what arises, thoughts, emotions, sensations, and then see what happens. They come and they go. They come and they go. So that's the impermanence. That they're not yourself. They're not self because you're aware of them. If you're aware of something, that can't be you and it can't be in you. It's like a finger that can't scratch itself. If you're aware of it, it can't be you and it can't be in you. If you're aware of the waking, It can't be you, and it can't be in you. Just like the dream. It's not in you. No, if somebody's cut in the dream, you're not cut as the consciousness. Here, when I say dream, it's important to realize we're calling it dream from the waking point of view. But when it appears, it's a state that when you're in it, it appears like waking. That's what I mean by a dream. That while it's appearing, it seems real. The tiger is real. You're running away from it. You don't know it's a dream till you wake up. That state. So that real state, while it's appearing, nothing that happens in there affects you. You're not in the time of the dream or the space of the dream. You're not affected by the cuts and the bruises and the diseases in the dream. If you could see that you're the same witness of the waking state, exactly the same, that just like the dream was appearing to you, the waking is now appearing to you as an object. It's the contents of your consciousness waking. When you take the whole waking state, what that means is the whole universe, including all your friends and lovers and relatives, and then you got to throw your own body, your own senses, your own mind into that state, because that's part of the waking body. All of that is appearing to you, and that you is the unchanging reality. That's called pure consciousness, or the absolute, or ultimate truth, or your true self, who you really are. You are that, because you never could lose that. The waking state comes and goes. And the body in the waking state and the waking ego, it comes and goes. It's transient. With all of its relationships, they appear and disappear in you. So you have to be able to take that witnessing perspective to understand what I'm trying to talk about. If you're stuck in the waking state as a knower with a body and senses, then you're limited by that body and senses, and you can never say, I am that. You have to say, I am this small individual that's just here for a blink of an eye, insignificant in the cosmological time. And that's who I am. If you change the perspective, you could see yourself as timeless, spaceless, immortal, ever peaceful, ever contented consciousness. That's my eternal nature. If you could recognize that, that would be what's known as enlightenment or liberation, because that consciousness is ever free. It's never bound by anything. It has no pain, no suffering, no worries, no empirical life. The ego may say, that doesn't sound very appealing to me. It sounds boring. There's no fun there. What am I going to do in an unchanging consciousness? What's the benefit of that? And the only benefit is probably that you finally stop identifying with this ego that wants to know, what is the benefit? I want to enjoy. I want to have fun. I want to. That ego that's here for a moment, that's definitely facing death, that ego who wants to enjoy is the I am so and so. When the real I is I am the witnessing consciousness, we've mixed them up, and then the ego doesn't want to go to sleep. I don't want to die. I don't want to be pure consciousness. I want to enjoy through my senses. But those types of enjoyment they have the defect of being impermanent and never fully satisfying or bringing total contentment. We get momentary satisfaction, but if the real desire is infinite bliss, the bliss of no second thing, which is inconceivable, the bliss that we get, though the happiness that we get that's momentary, that lasts for when we see a beautiful sunset or a child or a flower or a wonderful meal, that happiness is just a drop of the happiness of the infinite bliss of yourself. It seems like, oh, there's no fun there from the ego's point of view. But there's no boredom in there. There's no time. It's timeless awareness.
Mm.
It can't be tarnished or blemished or has no defects. It's the bliss of non-duality. That's yourself. That's whether you recognize it or not. If you turn your mind inwards, which it has the capacity, I'll just say one more thing and then we'll open it up. The mind is an interesting faculty in that it has the capacity to be extrovert. And the mind goes out into the world. Of course, we're all watching the election, Donald Trump and Harris, and what's going to happen in democracy and world events. And we have to take care of the house and there's relatives. The mind is extrovert. We never have time for a moment to question about, is this absolutely real? Is there something to be discovered here? Because but that same mind, that's not, because the senses are pointed outward. We see out, we have to get food and find a mate and shelter. So our senses, our hearing, it's all out and the mind follows the senses. But the mind has the capacity to disregard the senses and take an inward turn. It can turn inwards and examine exactly what is this thing I call experience. What is going on in my own experience? To examine that impartially, to see the truth. What is actually, who am I? What is this ego? Is there something different than the ego that's present? The only way you can determine that is by this inward turn of the mind. I like to refer to it as the spiritual faculty of the mind. Its capacity to turn inwards and recognize I'm the witness, I'm the consciousness in which all the thoughts appear and disappear. That faculty of the mind is the spiritual faculty. There is anything else is some belief, some theological dogma, some mystical mumbo jumbo, something that you'd have to. This turning inwards and recognizing a fact that no matter what, that consciousness is there. Anytime I look, it's recognizable as ever present. You can't think it away. And then if you try to examine what is the nature of that consciousness in my own experience, you can recognize that it's the unchanging reality. It's the only reality. I am that. You need to introvert the mind. It's not a question of reading books, questions and answers, intellectual understanding. That won't take you very far. and it won't bring real satisfaction. It may bring some intellectual satisfaction, but this is a much deeper problem than intellectual, because you have to see the truth that you're beyond the intellect. You're beyond all questions and answers, beyond all doubts. You're the witness of doubts that can't be doubted. The one thing that can't be doubted is the witness of the doubt.
Mm.
So just to sum up here, so whether it's perceptions or thoughts, or they're separate, they're all mental. You need senses to have a perception of anything. That means eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. Then you can perceive. Without that, there'd be no perceptions per se. You could still maybe have thoughts, and you could even, but the important thing, I think, is to see the fact that all perceptions and all thoughts and all mental phenomena appear in my consciousness. That what Chip said in the beginning, the stillness. Why is it stillness? Because it never changes. It's not even in time. You can't say it's changeless, like it always existed in the past. It is existing now. It's going to continue to exist in the future. This is not in time. This is called timeless awareness.
Mhm.
It's still because it's not in time. It can't change. It can't change. That's why they call it changeless, but not in a temporal sense that it always existed in the past, that it's existing right now in the present. It's not in time. You are timeless awareness, recognizing that fact. It's called enlightenment. There's nothing more than that. To realize I am that, to know that, puts an end to the whole duality, that I am an individual in the world that was born, that is trying to understand something, that wants to be happy, that everything you're seeking for, peace, happiness, immortality, the self is infinite peace, immortal, not born, doesn't die, and ever content, free from fear. Because when there's a second thing, there's always a possibility that thing can hurt you or get you. It's only when there's no second thing that the true fearlessness, your own true nature is ever fearless, because there's no second thing to it. Okay, I'll stop at this point and let's open it up to some
Okay.
comment about it.
Ira, would you talk just briefly about Satchitananda and how that's our
You
reflex
notice
to nature?
in everything I said, I didn't bring in any Sanskrit. I tried not to. If I did, I didn't mean to.
No, you
Nothing
didn't.
about Vedanta, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, no scriptural. What I'm talking about here is like, I consider it a universally available fact of human experience.
Yes.
We're all just wired like this. We have thoughts, but there's also the thing that's aware of the thoughts, and you can recognize that. So without getting into any type of Eastern mysticism or Eastern religion that somebody would have to believe in, it's, whether I'm in Woodstock, you guys in the Hamptons, or whether you're in China or in a cave in the Himalayas, what I said just now applies to every yogi. There's nothing mystical. Nobody had to raise their kundalini or go into samadhi or anything, I think, to understand, at least, I think, I don't know, people, I know you guys kind of understand what I'm saying, right, when I talk. I
Yes,
don't know, there's a couple other people listening. I think probably Chip probably follows when I'm talking like this. I'm not sure about whether, because it's a very radical thing that in fact, saying. So let me now, having said that, I'll answer your question. Sat Chit Ananda, yes?
yes.
So it's 3 words, Sanskrit words. Sat means existence. Sat is existence. Chit means consciousness. And Ananda means bliss. But these words are very poor descriptions of what I was trying to say. They have to be qualified. So let me qualify them. When you say something exists, it always means it exists at some time. Is it existing? So it's existing in time for a while. Anything that exists has to exist in time. If it doesn't exist in time, then what do you mean it exists? But this is existence bereft of time and space. It's not existing in any place, and it doesn't exist at any time. So it's sat, existence bereft of time and space. The word consciousness, whenever we think of consciousness, we think, I'm aware of something. If I'm not aware of something, I'm unconscious. I'm conscious, and when I'm not aware of anything, if I get knocked out, hit by a bat, fall, faint, I was unconscious. I wasn't aware of anything. So that meaning of chit, consciousness, doesn't mean that. The word chit means consciousness in which there are no objects, no content. Consciousness bereft of all objects is chit. When you take away all objects, what will you think of? Is it red? Is it blue? Is it big? Is it small? You can't objectify it. When you take away all the objects, pure consciousness, bereft of all objects, what qualities, what attributes, is it big? Is it far, near? It has no qualities. You can't think of it. Anything you think of, you're the witness of that. You can't objectify it. So it's consciousness without any objects. That's the meaning of chit.
Mhm.
And ananda means bliss. But the word, just like sat doesn't mean ordinary existence, chit doesn't mean ordinary consciousness, bliss doesn't mean feeling happy. It's not the happiness that we get when we put a spoon of Haagen-Dazs on the tongue. Ah, delicious. That is caused by something. It has a beginning, it has an end, and it's temporary. Here, Ananda, bliss means that bliss which is not caused by anything. It's the very nature of the self, that the non-dual self is bliss because there's no second thing. It's the bliss of non-duality. It's not like feeling happy. It's when there's no mind, when the mind is gone. When we wake up, we say, oh, I didn't know anything. I slept happily. Why? Did you enjoy your house, your car? No, I wasn't aware of anything. I slept happily. That happiness that's not caused by anything, because it's your own nature, is not limited by anything, in fact, is infinite bliss. That's the meaning of Ananda. Happiness not caused by anything. Consciousness bereft of all objects. Existence not in time or space. That is Sat Chit Ananda. That's
Yes.
about the, you
Yeah.
can't describe this thing, but if you have to put it in words, they call it existence, consciousness, bliss.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I can't help but wonder, Chip, did you have your question answered?
I thought it was an absolutely what's the word? There's really no word for it. It was a complete um, conversation, Ira. Thank you very much for that. Which basically said it doesn't matter whether perceptions are thoughts or not. You know,
Right.
basically focus on focus on
Yeah, right,
on this,
exactly.
which is basically just I am that, you know, and
Yeah, I would say that which is aware of all the perceptions and all the thoughts. That's what we
right,
have to, is there something like that? The
right,
perceptions are coming and going, they appear and disappear, just like the thoughts. They're mental
right,
phenomena. But when you
right,
say they appear, then you have to say they appear to who? What do you
right,
mean
right,
appear? If they appear,
hmm
they're appearing to something. They appear to me. Is the ego
hmm
appearing? Yes,
yes, hmm
that's appearing to me. So I'm not the ego. That's the
hmm
freedom, because once you're not Chip, then you're not going to die. Chip is here for a little while,
Right.
and hopefully, God willing, he'll be happy, but eventually he'll get sick and old and die. And that's the genealogy of all of us. And I don't expect to be saved if you're Chip. But if you're that witnessing consciousness, then there's a way out. And it's not like a religious belief that I'll go to heaven and be happy there. It's to see the fact that right here I'm free. I'm not limited by anything. I'm limitless, boundless awareness.
Yes.
So,
Timeless awareness. I love that pointer of timeless awareness.
we can
And
hardly think of anything that's not in time. You know, our mind just freezes when we
right.
try to think of something. How could awareness exist but not be in time? It's, but in deep sleep, there is awareness and there is no time. It's a very fascinating thing, because if in deep sleep there's no time, then you say, then how long did I sleep?
Hmm.
If you look at your watch and say, oh, I slept for about 4 hours, as though that state was an event in your waking time series, which is true. From the waking, I only slept for, but in deep sleep, there's no time. You're not aware of any time, and nor are you aware of the thing is, it's not like there's time somewhere, but I'm not aware of it. You're not aware of the absence of time. There's no time and there's no absence of time. There's no world and it's not like the world, because I didn't get into one very subtle point in this discussion about the states, which is, it's easy to see that the dream world comes and goes with the dream state, that they're concomitant. When the dream is there, the dream world is appearing. When I wake up and the dream ends, nobody thinks, oh, the dream ended, but the dream world is continuing somewhere in some place. No, when I woke up, the dream ended and the dream world ended with it. But nobody thinks that when my waking state ends, my waking world is not existing somewhere. That
Mm.
when I go, my wife and my house is still here. I'm on my bed. I'm just not aware of it. It continues even when the state is not appearing. But the actual experience is that just like the dream world appears with the dream state and has no existence apart from it, my waking world has no existence apart from my waking state. When there's no waking state, there's no wake. No one has ever experienced the waking world apart from their waking state. To say that there's a waking world apart from it is to make an abstraction that can never be verified in experience. Our experience is that the waking world comes with the waking state in exactly the same way that the dream world comes with the dream state. That's the experience. If you look at it from the waking point of view, then it looks like the waking is remains whether the dream and sleep. Dream and sleep are events in the waking time frame. That while I'm in this waking world, I go to sleep and then I had a dream and then I wake up into the same waking world that I went to sleep. But the actual experience is that the waking world, no one has ever seen their waking world apart from their waking state, just like no one has ever seen the dream world apart from the dream state. That's a very, a radical claim.
Mm.
You have to really think about it. Is it really, because everyone takes it, waking is real, dream is false, and deep sleep is just a state when I'm unconscious for a while. But when you look at it from the point of view of subjective experience, then the states are equal.
Right.
The dream cancels the waking completely, just like the waking canceled the dream. They mutually cancel each other. The only thing that's not canceled is the consciousness in which they were appearing and disappearing.
Mhm.
That's the only reality. The states are just appearances in consciousness. They have no true existence. All that really exists is yourself. It's yourself that gives the existence to the dream and waking. It borrows it. It really has, it's just an appearance. An appearance is that which seems to exist while it's appearing, but in truth never existed in the past. While it was appearing, it didn't exist and will never exist in the future. It's like a snake on a rope.
Mm.
When you see the snake, that snake never existed at any time. There was never really any snake there. It didn't exist in the past. It didn't exist while it was appearing, even. It appeared like there was a snake there, but there was no snake there. And there never will be because it was only a rope. In the same way, the states are appearances in consciousness. An appearance is that which seems to be real while it's appearing, but in truth, never existed.
Mm.
That's what an appearance is. When you say the waking appears to me, then you're saying that it has no existence. Just like the dream appeared to me, it has no existence. They're both appearances. I'm the only reality of waking and dream. It's me that's appearing. But in truth, if you see that waking is the same as the dream, then really there's only the dream. Waking is a dream. So now that's called merging waking into dream. That my waking is a dream. To see that fact, now there's only two states, dream and deep sleep. Something appears, and it appears like it's real, but it's just a dream. That's called waking and deep sleep. But when the dream appears, there's no duality there at all. In truth, it's just a dream. And in deep sleep, there's no duality. in truth. So what's the difference between dream and deep sleep? No duality in dream, in truth. No duality in deep sleep, in truth. That's seeing that dream is nothing but deep sleep. And deep sleep is not deep sleep when there's no waking or dream. Then what's deep sleep? Deep sleep is just pure contentless consciousness.
Mm. Right.
That's
Ira,
the
I think there's
Yeah.
there's something I just want to highlight in what you're talking about through this process that you're taking us through, which I think
please.
is awesome. One is the importance of experience. You've talked about that we're basically voyagers in the unveiling of our true nature. That's what we're in the process of experiencing, and we do it through the process of experience, which I think is very important. Um, the second thing is what I was calling thoughts. I think you're calling mental phenomena or
Yes,
content of consciousness. And
yes.
whether that mental phenomena or content of consciousness comes under the guise of being perceptions or of being creative thoughts or any kind of other types of thoughts, it's just you've grouped it into mental phenomena or content of consciousness, which I think is awesome. um, and then it's you're either aware of something or you're not aware of anything.
There's no third
And
possibility. Yeah.
right. And so I think our experience within, I'm calling it the realm of creation, which is basically the waking, dreaming state, uh, consolidated, where we're having an experience of mental phenomena, or this deep sleep, which is ever available to us, which is just basically that awareness of no thing or of nothing, which I just think is awesome. So I think thank you very much for your talk, Ira.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
beautiful
Yes.
There's a
and
famous
peaceful and
shloka
comprehensive.
about deep sleep. There's a famous shloka in a text written by Shankaracharya. He says, if one were to realize that how they were in deep sleep is how they are right now,
Mm.
they would be the best of the knowers of truth.
Mm.
How I was in deep sleep, one without a second, is how I am right now, because my nature never changes. Even when the waking appears, I'm exactly the same. How I was in deep sleep, pure consciousness, is how I am right now. Even when something appears, I'm still unattached, unaffected, ever the same.
Yes.
That's recognizing that fact, he says, is enlightenment.
Yes. Yes. Well, Ira, thank
Okay,
you.
it's been
Thank
an
you.
oh my God, it went quick.
Listen,
Okay, good,
thank you
good, good,
so much.
good.
Thank you for
Okay,
bringing
good.
us
I had
to
fun
our
and
true
good see.
nature.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful seeing you guys.
Oh, so much so. Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you.
okay,
Thank,
okay.
thank you, Ira.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thanks, Evie. Thanks, Paul.